Hi, I'm John Feldt, founder of Blue Water Outlook. About 60% of the nation is now covered in drought. What will the next week or two bring? Stay tuned to the weekly Water Outlook.
Well, let's start off the briefing this week by taking a look at past precipitation over the last week. What we see here is really not a whole lot that's going on. The areas in blue is really not a whole lot of rain. The significant rain is in the yellow and red, and really the only organized area we have seen is across the Gulf of Mexico, extending up into the Ohio Valley. That was some streak of moisture, tropical moisture that came in from the Gulf of Mexico. Even over the southeast U.S., even though there have been some recent rainfall, it's been pretty scattered, and if you look at it from the context of the entire week, really not all that much. But I think the big story this week is really the drought, and large parts of the central part of the country and the west, very little rain at all. The core of the drought, look how much blue in there. That's less than a ½ inch of rain. The gray is zero rain. So you can really see there's not a whole lot of significant rain, and certainly nothing to do much for the drought at all over that region. Now, a better way that I like to look at this is the percent of normal rainfall, and this gives you a little bit better idea. Areas in red are rainfall well above or well below normal. I think that's the big story right now. Over the last week, we had 25% of rainfall or less over large parts of the central part of the nation. That includes Nebraska, Oklahoma, Missouri, parts of Illinois, almost all of Iowa, parts of Nebraska. Over the southeast U.S., we sort of see a mixed bag. We see from Alabama and Georgia, parts of the Carolinas, areas of red next to areas of blue. Red's below normal, blue's above normal. That's saying that's that typical summertime rainfall. We have haves and have-nots. Again, I already mentioned that streak of rainfall, above normal rainfall that extended from Louisiana, parts of Mississippi, into the Ohio Valley. That was probably pretty much the only area of organized above normal rainfall. There was some in the Pacific Northwest and very little rain across California and parts of Nevada. Now, if we look at streamflow across the nation from our colleagues at the USGS, what we see here is reds are below normal streamflow, greens are normal, and blues are above normal. We see a little bit of a diversity of rainfall as far as a mix of these colors. And that's not unusual as we get into the summer months as rivers respond to localized amounts of rain. But I think if we look at the big trends here, we do see at the Pacific Northwest, we do see some above normal streamflow due to that recent rainfall. We see a streak of above normal rainfall with that area I mentioned from Louisiana up into the Ohio Valley. And then we see well below normal streamflow over areas of the core of drought. And in many of these areas, we're looking at record low streamfall over those areas with historical records of streamflow extending very far back. So definitely very significant streamflow deficits in some of those areas of core drought. As far as flooding goes, if we take a quick look, just a few spots across the nation where we're expecting flooding. We see a few spots along the immediate Gulf Coast. Everything else is pretty isolated, maybe responding to some localized rainfall, but for the most part for flooding it's been very quiet across the nation. The U.S. Drought Monitor has been the big story. As I often mention when we talk about water resources, it's not just flood, it's drought, and I think the nation's beginning to realize that now. We have a historic high percentage of the U.S. that's currently in drought. This is extreme as far as the amount of area in drought. The areas in red are the most significant drought, and you can see that we have cores of extreme drought over parts of Colorado, Kansas, parts of Missouri. We also see that in Indiana, Arkansas, and then a persistent drought over parts of the southeast as well. But if you look at all the colors shaded in here, that's the lesser degree of drought, and it's definitely expanding across the area, and that's why future rainfall is going to be very important if this area intensifies and expands or if it begins to shrink. Okay, so let's take a look at the meteorology for the upcoming week, and what we see here is fairly quiet conditions, and that's what you would expect as we get into mid to late July, but sometimes the very subtle things make a big difference, and I want to talk about that a bit. First of all, the Jetstream on Monday is well to our north. Over the northern U.S. And what we see here is this building ridge of high pressure over much of the central and the west central part of the U.S. And what that is that's this building area of ridge of high pressure. It's going to keep it dry and very quiet. But if we go towards the latter part of this week, we see this jet stream dipping just slightly. You might not think that's a lot, but actually what that's going to do is bring a cold front down a bit into that area of drought, and it will bring some scattered precipitation. Now, that's not going to be a drought buster by any means. It's probably not going to do a whole lot, but at least with some added clouds and some added scattered afternoon and evening thunderstorms along a frontal boundary, at least that'll keep temperatures down, reduce evaporation a bit, perhaps bring some needed rainfall here and there. So any little thing will help, and at least with that jet dipping a little bit further south, that brings a better chance of rain over some areas that really do need rain. Now, if we look at some of the computer models at where that rain might fall, this is a projection for the entire week. Pretty unorganized. I think the only area that I'd really want to mention here that looks somewhat organized, and we'll see how this works out, is that band across the northern plains from the Dakotas across Minnesota into parts of Wisconsin. It's very typical in the middle of summer to get mesoscale type systems or small scale type systems that move from west to east or northwest to southeast, and they can bring very heavy rainfall. So I think that we will get some of those with that upper jet stream in that area throughout the week, and it'll bring some significant rainfall. I think elsewhere it's going to be very scattered. Very little rain over Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Kansas. That looks like a very dry spot, as well as much of the far western U.S. Very little rain from Washington State down through Oregon into California. And then over the southeast U.S. and mid-Atlantic states, it looks like scattered type precipitation. Hit or miss precipitation, nothing organized, nothing all that heavy. Are widespread, but definitely scattered precipitation, most likely more days than not. So as far as a threat assessment goes this week, looks like it's definitely weighted towards drought versus flood. The drought looks like it will persist. I do expect some rain in parts of the drought areas of Missouri and Illinois, but again, I don't think it's much that's going to do a whole lot for the drought, but it's better than nothing. As far as the areas of heavy rain, of course, in summertime, you can get rain hit or miss anywhere that'll produce flash flooding and urban flooding. But really, the more organized, looks like it'll be across the northern tier states, which is very typical this time of year. And then the drought in the southeast U.S. that's been around for a long time, that looks like that will persist. But there will be some rain here and there with these scattered thunderstorms. And if we get enough in the right area over a number of days, that could help a bit in that area as well. Okay, so the weekly water outlook takeaway points this week. Organized flooding is not expected. Tropical activity is very quiet, which is not unusual for this time of year. We do not expect any tropical activity this week. The drought will persist, but there will be some scattered rainfall within the area of drought. And mesocomplex systems will dominate the northern plains. Appreciate you listening to the weekly water outlook. It's provided by Blue Water Outlook. There's a whole lot more that's currently part of the Blue Water Outlook stream, including hurricane season updates, Blue Water Outlook Advisor, and hydrographics. So take a look at bluewateroutlook.com and considering subscribe to the Blue Water Outlook stream for much more information as we go through the week. Please stay tuned next week for the next weekly Water Outlook.